They laughed when the gavel hit the table. Not a polite laugh, no, it was the kind that echoes too long. The kind that sticks to your skin like something you can't wash off. And at the center of it all was me. $1 for my boring dad, my son said, smiling like it was the cleverest joke he'd ever told. That was the moment everything I thought I knew about my life began to crack. I never imagined I'd end up on a stage like that. Not at 61. Not after everything I'd given. The ballroom shimmered with soft gold light, crystal chandeliers reflecting off polished marble floors, people in tailored suits and silk. Dresses moved like they belonged there, like they were part of something important. I wasn't. I stood near the back, hands folded, trying not to feel out of place. My son Aram had insisted I come. "Dad, it's just a charity gala," he'd said over the phone a week earlier. "It would mean a lot if you showed up." He rarely asked for anything like that. Not anymore. So I said yes without hesitation. Truth is, I would have said yes to anything he asked. I raised him on my own after his mother passed when he was 9. Back then, he used to hold my hand tightly in crowded places, afraid he might lose me. I remember promising him over and over that I wasn't going anywhere. Funny how time flips those promises. Now he was the one slipping further away, and I didn't even realize when it started. "Mr. Rahman?" A soft voice pulled me out of my thoughts. I turned to see a woman standing beside me, mid-30s, poised, observant. She had that calm presence some people carry without effort. "Yes," I replied. "I'm Alina," she said with a small smile. "I work with your son. He talks about you. That caught me off guard." "He does?" "Of course," she said, tilting her head slightly. "He says you're the reason he is where he is." I felt something warm settle in my chest. It had been a long time since I heard anything like that. We talked for a while after that. Alina wasn't like the others in the room. She listened. Really listened. Asked about my life, my work, the years I spent running a small repair shop just to make ends meet. She didn't rush me. Didn't check her phone every few seconds. And for the first time that evening, I didn't feel invisible. "You must be proud of him," she said at one point. "I am," I answered without hesitation. "More than he knows." That was the truth. Even when he stopped calling as often. Even when our conversations became shorter, more formal. Even when I started feeling like a guest in his world instead of a part of it. Pride doesn't disappear that easily. The event officially began around 8. People gathered near the stage, glasses in hand, murmuring in low tones. A large screen lit up behind the podium, displaying the name of Aram's company in bold letters. He walked onto the stage to applause. Confident, polished, successful. I barely recognized the boy I used to tuck into bed. "Good evening, everyone," he began, his voice steady and practiced. "Tonight is about giving back, about recognizing value in places we often overlook." The crowd nodded along. He was good at this. Too good. I found myself smiling, even clapping along with everyone else. That was my son up there, my boy. But then, something shifted. It was subtle at first, a glance, a pause, a slight change in his tone. "And now," he continued, "we're going to do something a little different." A few people chuckled, intrigued. "We all donate money. That's expected, predictable." He stepped away from the podium, walking slowly across the stage. "But tonight, we're auctioning something more personal." I frowned slightly. "Auctioning?" "For a bit of fun," he added, flashing that charming smile that seemed to win everyone over. "We'll be auctioning experiences, time, conversations, moments with people you wouldn't normally notice." There was laughter again. Light, curious. My stomach tightened, though I couldn't explain why. Alina, standing beside me, shifted her posture. "Have you heard about this?" I whispered. She shook her head slowly. "No, this is new." On stage, Aram scanned the crowd. Then his eyes landed on me. And for a second, just a second, I thought I saw hesitation. But it vanished quickly. "Let's start simple," he said. "Let's start close to home." Something inside me went still. "Tonight," he continued, "I'm putting up someone very special for auction." A few playful whistles echoed across the room. "Someone who represents consistency." "Predictability." He paused, letting the words hang. "Someone who has mastered the art of being utterly boring." The crowd laughed louder this time. My chest felt tight. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice now lighter, almost amused. "My father, The room turned. Every eye, every smile, every curious glance landed on me. And just like that, I wasn't invisible anymore. I wished I was. One word from my boring dad, Aram added with a small laugh, tapping the gavel against the podium. The sound echoed. Sharp final! People chuckled. Some clapped. A few even raised their hands jokingly, playing along. But I couldn't hear them clearly. All I could hear was that word, boring. I stood there, frozen, my mind struggling to catch up with what was happening. This was a joke. It had to be, right? I looked at Alina. Her expression had changed. The calm was gone. In its place, something else, something unreadable. This isn't right, she murmured under her breath. I swallowed, forcing a faint smile as a couple near us laughed awkwardly. It's fine, I said quietly. He's just entertaining the crowd. But even as I said it, something didn't feel right. Because Aram wasn't looking at me anymore. He was looking at them, at their reactions, at their approval. Come on, he encouraged. Don't be shy. Who wants a quiet dinner with the most predictable man alive? More laughter. A hand went up across the room. $2, someone called out. The crowd cheered. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a joke. This was a performance. And I was the punchline. I should have walked out. I should have turned around, left that room, and never looked back. But I didn't. Because somewhere deep down, I was still that man who believed his son didn't mean it, that there was an explanation, that this would all make sense in a moment. So I stayed, and that was my mistake. $5, another voice shouted. 10! The numbers climbed, each bid wrapped in laughter and amusement, in something that felt heavier than humor. I kept my eyes on the floor. Until 50. The room felt quieter this time, not silent, but different. Because that voice didn't laugh. It didn't play. It didn't belong. I slowly lifted my head, and that's when I saw them, standing near the front, calm still, watching me, not the stage. Me. There was something in their expression I couldn't quite place. Not pity, not amusement. Something sharper, more intentional. Aram noticed too. He leaned forward slightly, intrigued. $50? Well, that's unexpected. A few murmurs spread through the crowd. Do we have 60? He asked, tapping the gavel lightly again. But no one responded. Because the room had changed. The energy had shifted. And for the first time that night, Aram didn't look entirely in control. I felt it too. That subtle, unsettling shift, like something was about to unfold. Something none of us had planned. The stranger didn't move, didn't smile, just stood there waiting. And somehow I knew this wasn't about a joke anymore. The gavel hovered in Aram's hand. The room held its breath. And I had the strangest feeling that whatever happened next was going to change everything. The gavel hovered in Aram's hand. The room held its breath. And I had the strangest feeling that whatever happened next was going to change everything. Going once? Aram said, his voice no longer as effortless as before. No one spoke. Going twice? The stranger didn't move, didn't even blink. Just stood there, calm, certain, as if they already knew the outcome. Sold. The gavel struck. And just like that, it was over. Or at least that's what I thought. There was a ripple of applause, uncertain, scattered. Not the loud, carefree laughter from earlier. This time, people glanced at each other as if silently asking the same question. Did this just go too far? Aram cleared his throat, forcing a smile back onto his face. Well, he said lightly, looks like my father has a very generous admirer. A few polite chuckles followed, but they faded quickly, because the stranger was already moving. Step by step, they walked toward me, not the stage, not the spotlight, me. And the closer they got, the quieter the room became. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. I didn't understand why. I didn't understand anything anymore. They stopped a few feet away. Up close, I could see more clearly now, early 40s. Composed, eyes that didn't wander. There was a quiet confidence about them, but also something deeper, something familiar. Mr. Rahman, they said, their voice calm, steady. May I? They gestured slightly, not touching me, not assuming, just asking. It had been a long time since anyone asked me for anything with that kind of respect. I nodded slowly. Yes! They turned toward the stage then. Before anything else, they said, their voice carrying across the room without needing to rise. "I'd like to clarify something." Aram shifted, clearly caught off guard. "Of course," he replied, though his tone had tightened slightly. "Go ahead." The stranger paused, just long enough to make everyone lean in. "I didn't bid $50, they said." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Aram blinked. I'm sorry?" "I bid 50, they repeated, "but not for a joke. Not for entertainment." They turned their heads slightly, looking at me again. "I bid because I recognize value." Silence. Real silence this time. Heavy, uncomfortable. I felt something shift inside my chest. Not pain, not embarrassment. Something else. Something I hadn't felt in a long time. Arham let out a small, forced laugh. "Well, that's certainly one way to look at it. It's all in good fun." "Is it?" The question wasn't loud, but it cut through everything. Aram stopped mid-sentence. The stranger took a single step forward. Not aggressive, not confrontational, just certain. "You said tonight was about recognizing value in places we often overlook," they continued. "I agree with that." They glanced around the room briefly. "Which is why I'm a little confused." No one moved. No one spoke. "Because what I see here," they said slowly, "is a room full of successful people applauding the idea that consistency, sacrifice, and quiet dedication are things to laugh at." A few people shifted uncomfortably. Eyes dropped. Glasses were suddenly very interesting to look at. Aram's smile had completely faded now. "Look," he said a bit more firmly, "this wasn't meant to be taken so seriously." "It's a light segment for you," the stranger interrupted gently. Not harsh, not angry, just honest. And maybe that's the problem. I could feel every word landing. Not just on him, on everyone, on me, especially me. The stranger turned fully toward Aram now. "Do you know what it takes," they asked, "to be boring for decades?" Aram didn't answer. Waking up every day and choosing responsibility over comfort. Showing up when no one applauds you. Building something quietly so someone else can stand on it later. Their voice didn't waver. "If that's boring, then it's also rare." Something in my throat tightened. I looked down, blinking slowly, because suddenly, I couldn't trust my eyes not to betray me. "I'll make this simple," the stranger continued. They reached into their pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Clean, unmarked. They held it up, not dramatically, just enough to be seen. "I'd like to revise my bid." Aram hesitated. "Revise?" "Yes." A pause. "Then, I'd like to offer something more appropriate." The room leaned in again. You could feel it. That shift, that curiosity, that tension. The stranger stepped forward and placed the envelope on the edge of the stage, right in front of Aram. "I'm not buying your father's time," they said quietly. "I'm honoring it." Arham stared at the envelope, but didn't touch it. "What is this?" he asked. The stranger met his eyes. "Something you should have given him a long time ago." No one breathed. No one moved. Even the air felt heavier. Arham slowly reached down, picked up the envelope, and opened it. I watched his face, watched the confidence drain, watched the color shift, watched something real finally break through. His fingers tightened slightly around whatever was inside. "What is this?" he repeated, but this time, his voice was different, quieter, unsteady. The stranger didn't answer immediately. Instead, they looked at me, and for the first time that night, their expression softened, not with pity, but with recognition. "You spent your life building something solid," they said, "even when no one was watching." I swallowed hard, because I didn't know how they knew that. I didn't know how they knew any of it. Then they turned back to Arham. "That," they said calmly, "is a summary of every contract your company has secured in the past 3 years, directly or indirectly because of your father's early work." The room erupted into whispers. Aram's head snapped up. "That's not possible." "It is," the stranger replied, "because foundations don't disappear just because people stop noticing them." My heart pounded. Confusion, shock, something else I couldn't name. "My father ran a repair shop," Arham said almost defensively. "That has nothing to do with, doesn't it?" The stranger's voice remained calm. "Your first investor?" Silence. "Met you there." Arham froze. "Your first office space?" Another pause. A former client of his? I felt dizzy, because I remembered those people. Faces, conversations, moments I never thought twice about. You didn't build your success alone, the stranger said gently. Most people don't. The difference is, some remember. The room had completely turned now. No laughter. No amusement. Just truth, hanging in the air where the joke used to be. Aram looked down at the paper again. His grip loosened slightly. He started, but the words didn't come. For the first time in years, my son didn't have something to say. And me? I just stood there, still processing, still trying to understand how a room full of strangers had seen something. My own son had forgotten. The stranger took a small step back. Not claiming the moment, not holding on to it, just letting it exist. Then they looked at me one last time and said quietly, "You were never the punchline." I felt something break, not painfully. But finally, on stage, Aram lowered the envelope slowly. His shoulders, once so straight and confident, seemed heavier now. Real, human. "Dad," he said. Just one word, but it carried something I hadn't heard in a long time. Not pride, not distance, something closer to realization. And as I looked at him, really looked at him, I realized something too. This wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of something neither of us was ready for. And the stranger? They were already walking away, leaving behind silence, truth, and a night none of us would ever forget.